Hello, everyone, and welcome to Get Better, a show about two longtime friends trying their best, growing up, and hopefully getting better. I'm Zach Johnson.
And I'm Sam Cherry.
Hello,
Zach,
hello. Whoa, oh my gosh.
I'm moving. I'm
Geez,
going.
yeah,
We got
oh
so
my
much.
gosh, I did not realize that we were already on the interstate. I was still on the on-ramp.
We're rolling. I didn't ask you on our pre-show because we are rolling. Hey, are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Wonderful. I just always check, and I didn't.
It's true, yeah. Now the audience knows. That's a bit of shop talk right there.
A little bit of
if you're looking for how to
shop
make a
talk.
podcast, this is not the podcast for you. But that was a little behind the scenes sort of podcasting right there.
Well, unfortunately, we got to be done with the shop talk, because not only were we on the interstate, we are in the express lane heading to the hospital to meet our script doctors. So let's get into it.
Is anyone a doctor?
Zach, this week's show I sent you ahead of time.
Yes,
because
it's a little bit more shop talk, barely ahead of time.
Okay, that's true. Well, because I had it picked out
as I was setting up the recording equipment. You were like, "Hey, this is going to be pretty wild."
So I knew the show is called The Master. It's on NBC, tragically cut short after one season. The thing that's different about this show is that, and I know that I've been saying this for all of these Saving 1984 shows, but this one I actually think sounds like a good show.
Mm.
Like, unlike the original premise of Script Doctor, where it was just like, wow, this is a very stupid premise. Why would they make this? Mm-hmm. Now we're into a bunch of shows that I actually do think were tragically cut short. Like, maybe I'm just losing my mind. I don't know. But
and if you want to like kind of I think
there's a lot of premise.
So yes, and I think that someone at the very least, at least one person, it might be you for all I know. One person at least very much agrees with you, because this Wikipedia for this show was 13 episodes is thorough. It is
Well,
Henry
that's the thing.
David
There's so
Thoreau.
much plot.
Yeah, well, it's
Henry
so
David
much.
Thoreau. Well, let's get into some of the I'll run through the highlights. Let me get you
Let's
highlights.
go and give the audience a bit of a what's on the menu tonight.
Okay, so The Master follows the character John McAllister, an American veteran who stayed in Japan following World War II and became a ninja master. Spoilers, probably going to get rid of him being American. Because that does come up later as like a weird thing where they're like, he was fighting too many Japanese people, and even for the 80s, it seemed racist. I was like, why don't we just not make him American? How about we just cut that whole American angle? Because, it is weird. Anyway, so he is I'm not just going to read the Wikipedia because I actually know this one because I read it all already. So he is an American who stays in Japan, but it seems like he fought in the Korean War also. I don't know. That's unclear because there's more Korea stuff later. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he stays in Japan after World War II, becomes a ninja master, and then as he gets older, I don't know if it's exactly related to this event, but there's two events that coincide. One, he gets a letter from a daughter he never knew he had who lives in America.
Cool.
Because he had like a 2-month affair with this woman and gets a letter from her. And nothing in the Wikipedia tells me what the letter says, but he gets a letter from his daughter. And then number 2, he decides to stop being a ninja, which his pupil, Okasa, I always want to say Osaka, but that's a place, not a person's name. Mm-hmm. It might be a person's name too, but it's definitely a place. Okasa finds this dishonorable and has to kill him because they're a part of a group called they call them a sect, but they basically said it's like a dojo. Like there's all these different like dojos, which I'd love to get into later. But to become the master, you have to kill the old master.
Yeah. I like the idea already of like dojos competing dojos,
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's like I don't know if you've seen the movie The Warriors. It's this 1970s
Sure.
like New York movie where this gang has to get home to like the Bronx or whatever, and it has to go through like every single gang, and all the gangs have like a thing. Like this gang is like the punk, like the cool gang. This gang is like this, like they all like it might as well be like if the movie had continued on forever, then it would be like this gang, they're clowns. This gang, they're robots. Like it would have just gone on forever. So yeah, like dojos versus dojos. I'm already in the headspace. I'm there.
It's great. So part of the system, and I don't think this is true. I think this is part of the fictionalized thing, is that to become the master, of a dojo, you have to kill the previous master. Although there seems to be other ways to
kind
succeed.
Of a Highlander type situation.
It is, and it seems like a bad system. There's allusions to the fact that there are other ways that you can become a master without having to like kill your teacher and mentor.
Rent out a new space.
Well, yeah, I guess start a new dojo.
Build a new building. Yeah.
So, those are kind of like sorry, I didn't even get to the part where he goes to America. He's like the main character, but so McAllister goes to America and ends up in this small town because I think he's number one trying to find his daughter. That's like the main thrust of the show. But number two, he's trying not to get killed by Okasa. And he meets this kid, Max. And Max wants to learn to be a ninja. And Okasa's like, you're too emotional. So they've got that back and forth where he's very like stoic and he's a ninja, whatever. Like you get it. He's serious old man.
I'm already seeing some Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi type vibes.
Totally.
It is potential that George Lucas stole from this.
Who knows? Maybe.
Because, like, if anything, like them going around in a little space cruiser, how was that any different than Max and this ninja master, John Peter McAllister, driving around in a van? How's that any different?
And so Max gets something with the plot. And, it's episode one shit. You've all seen television shows where like, he's like, no, I can't train you. You're too emotional. And he's like, and then he ends up where Max is standing up for some people in the town and he ends up getting into some trouble. And the master is like, saves him from that trouble. And then it's like, you got a good heart. I'll train you. And so then he decides to train him. I was going to say hijinks ensue, but like adventure ensues. Those are the main beats. There's some other details that I'd love to get into later where the bones of this, I think, have a lot. But this show sounds rad. So the main issue is finding the daughter chased by Okasa. That's the main thing.
For one season and 13 episodes, I can already see there is so much lore. Like, there is an unbelievable amount of just hitting the ground running with lore.
And in our
for
terms,
example,
potential.
I was zipping past, looking, just kind of like skimming this Wikipedia, and the first thing I saw is Timothy Van Patten as Max Keller has a pet hamster, or possibly a gerbil.
What? I missed that.
Yeah,
did you get to the part where they have all the where?
No, I'm looking at the section that is just dedicated to the cast and characters, and there are some paragraphs written here.
Oh, keep going. I mean, I didn't read that one, but if
what I'm saying, like someone is trying to get this show rebooted, and Meet the Fockers 2 at fockedup@gmail.com. Go ahead and reach out to us, because listen, we have an idea that we're not going to talk about on air, but it's for a kind of a secret comic book that's not so secret.
The slightly secret comic book. There's a whole section called Ninjutsu Mythology in the Master. These people did their research. Like, there's a whole section that's basically about how that the show is a somewhat faithful adaptation of the actual spiritual philosophy of ninjas. Like, apparently the show actually does a good job of explaining how ninjas worked in the real world. And there's a whole section about it. There is, like we said before, several sects. Never gonna sound right, huh? Sects?
Sex, you got it. Sex.
You know Joe Biden on the campaign trail, when they asked him how many genders there were, he said, at least 3.
He did?
What a cool fucking response. Yeah,
that's
at least 3.
That is said because some aide was like waving him down off camera.
Don't
and,
say
like,
2.
Like just being like, don't say 2, like do not say 2, wrote it down. He was just like, not 2, not 1, at least 3.
He's like, I know it's not 1. I thought it was 2, but this aide is really telling me the answer is not 2. At least
I don't
3.
get it. Anyway.
It's a really funny comment by President-elect Joe Biden. Anyway,
President-elect.
Allegedly. So they're also called houses. That's way easier. Okay, so there's these houses. Our main characters are in the butterfly house, which like represents the human soul or something. There's only one other character that we meet in a different house, but it's the snake house. And he is described as an anarcho-nihilist who uses a fictional ninja history to justify committing crimes.
Man, is this show cool as hell?
Is that what I'm learning right now?
Cool. Is that this show is like cool as hell?
So obviously we have a series. Okay, one of the problems is they made all of the villains, or they used to have a bunch of different villains, right? But then they pared it down to just Okasa because they're like, look, having perhaps out of fear that giving McAllister a constant stream of Asian ninja adversaries, as opposed to just Okasa, whose business with the master is personal, would be seen as racist. Which I agree. I could see. I mean, you're kind of whitewashing ninjas to start. So the whole him being American and white is like not great. So I get that. But if we just change that initial thing and be like, maybe, I don't know, I don't care about the World War II part. So, or maybe it's set later in the future. I don't care. He doesn't need to be American, right? Because the whole premise is that he meets this woman, I think her name's Laura Kennedy, has an affair with her for like 2 months. She dips back to America, has their kid, whose name I forgot, Terry, maybe? Terry. It is Terry McAllister. So has Terry, and then Terry writes a mysterious letter in the future. So he does not need to be American at all. So I'm going to cut that for that. And also I think there should be way more villains. And I think over seasons we can introduce these different houses and slowly build out this lore of all the different dynamics back in Japan that he left behind. Mysterious past is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to give you some time. I've talked long explaining the premise. There's a couple other things that I really love, but I'm going to... What are you feeling?
So I'm feeling that this show is perfect.
Yeah, just a reboot, obviously. We don't need to change it. We just need to do it again.
I think I am seeing some news down here from Mystery Science Theater 3000 did some sort of thing with them, as well as This Movie Sucks also did something with them. So, I'm thinking that that's, not a good indicator of kind of what we got going on here.
I'm saying the premise is good.
Yeah, I'm saying the bones here are great. I can't really speak for the show itself, but yeah, man, I'm drowning in lore right now. And I gotta say I love that because, this show's ahead of its time. That's the first thing I'm going to say about this.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you've noticed this, but man, every single show now has to have like so much lore,
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think that Star Wars knew that that's why people liked it so much, or I don't know, Lord of the Rings, whatever. Maybe that guy was a lore machine, so maybe not. Maybe he actually knew. But so there's like so much backstory. So like I would say if I'm going to have just one sort of thing happen is maybe divvy out the lore a bit more,
spread this out.
Yeah, don't have it all happen in one episode where it's kind of like an exposition dump. And then immediately go into just kind of little adventures like I'm saying here. Episode 2, the premise of that one is a ninja-guarded crime lord mistakes Max and McAllister for bodyguards hired by a nightclub owner the crime lord is trying to control.
Yeah, okay, there's a lot of...
That's cool. That's cool as hell, but I'm thinking that maybe it could benefit from, some sort of long-form villain and slash or... Because, I mean, like, this is a hot property that NBC owns. That is the second thing I'll say. Because people are getting, because history moves in little waves, people are getting back into the 90s era, like Xena Warrior Princess and Hercules, where it's just it's just two shows of a Xena Warrior Princess and a Hercules just going from town to town, solving little problems and
like westerns,
like little western adventures. And the reason I say this is because of that big fat cultural juggernaut right now in the Corrin times, which is The Mandalorian.
Of course.
Exactly. That
is a Western.
It is a Western, but also it is, it's an episodic, like, hey, we're going to have a little adventure here, a little adventure there, and there's a general theme keeping us together.
Right.
So, yeah, this show for 2 ways is ahead of its time.
Well, I think we need to, one thing about the lore is I think it would be good, because you mentioned the mob boss, there's also FBI agents, I think there's some mafia stuff in here, there's a lot of cops, there's a lot of FBI. I think we need to tighten up the lore a little bit. I think maybe there's a couple silly episodes. I think we need to maybe pare it down and connect these things a little bit more. Like maybe the FBI is very aware of the crime. Yeah, The Wire. Have you seen The Wire yet?
Of course I've seen The Wire. You have to.
Well, okay, good. So anyway, so you know how in The Wire you've got season 2 and you meet the importers and the Greek, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, okay, this seems super random, but the more you watch the show, it's like, no. All of these people like know each other and are connected in this way, or also like Breaking Bad, the 2 shows I ever talk about, right?
Exactly.
You've got Gus and you've got the guys from season 1 and 2, and at first it's just like these are 2 unrelated things, but it's like, no, this is a whole network of crime, right? So I think pare it down a little bit more, make it more concise, not less lore, but just tighten it up a little bit. We don't need all this. There's one episode.
Have an interconnectivity.
Yeah, and less villains. Like for example,
so
one
like
episode
the mob boss is also a ninja.
No,
I'm
like
saying from the
Snake
House,
or he works with them.
Or all of a sudden, it's just like they're trying to take him down, and he is just like, man, you guys don't know shit, and then he just whips out some snake moves.
Yeah, with Snake style or something. So there's an episode 8, where they have to steal the crown jewels of England. Cut. I'm going to say cut that a whole episode. Nope, not doing that one. But I want to draw you to episode 9. Episode 9 is where I think we got the meat. Okay?
Oh, man, right towards the end, too.
Okasa, the villain, has a female pupil. Now, that is going to turn out to be the daughter that they've been looking for.
Oh.
100%. There's another.
So that's not revealed.
No, that is not the premise of the show. That does not happen in the television show.
Okay.
Yeah. No, this is the doctoring that I'm saying. So they're looking for Terry. They never see her except for in photographs. And McAllister's never actually met her, right? But they're searching around the country trying to find her, and she is somewhat high profile because 2 different times they meet people who are impersonating her. They're like FBI agents who are impersonating her to try to get information from like local crime people. So it's like, okay, so Terry McAllister like is someone, right? Like she's got something going on. And there's a line about her mom, Laura Kennedy, right? Okay, let me give you this line. So
I don't think we're doing a strip talk anymore. I think you're just geeking out about this show now.
I am, but also the certain things this is headcanon. So, okay. So Terry's mother.
For a show you have read descriptors of.
Yes, exactly. So it's implied that McAllister might still be in love with Laura, who is Terry's mom, right? McAllister asks Gina, who's the FBI agent, curious about Terry's mother, in a way that suggests he still has some interest in the mother of his daughter, even though, quote, nobody could live with Laura Kennedy for long, and believes her to be alive. So all McAllister knows is he knew this woman for 2 months. They had some kind of, love affair, and then she dipped off back to America, had this kid. Obviously, what I'm saying is episode 9, maybe even episode 4, we meet Okasa and this female pupil, right? Turns out, some point in the season, that is Terry, right? That seems obvious. But also throughout the series, I'm talking season 2, maybe season 3, we find out Laura Kennedy, also a trained assassin.
Oh and
so he loves Laura. I don't want it to be implied. I want it to be like he loves this woman and she broke his heart. And then he has to grapple with the fact that she was a plant the whole time. She came to Japan to seduce him or whatever, or I don't know, maybe they felt, I don't know, something. And she was also a trained assassin. She was a spy maybe for one of the different houses and was trying to spy on McAllister, and then ends up having a kid and raises that child in the ninja ways.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
I think that's a great idea. Here's the problem with that. I wasn't listening to a word that you just said because I was reading the plot for episode 10, which just says Max and McAllister take a break from the search for Terry to help out McAllister's to help out a friend of McAllister's, a bumbling PI based in Hawaii who is on a quest for a legendary tiger made of gold. Unfortunately, a Bond-like crime lord with a penchant for karate is also interested in the Java tiger.
Well, Zach, NBC doesn't call me for good shows.
Here's the thing.
There's some stinkers in here.
That right there is the backdoor pilot for an amazing show.
Yeah, that's a different show. That's like a
that
completely
right
different
there,
show.
I think they just accidentally made that's the one thing I like that, because on top of lore, you have to set the stage for the universe with which this show sets in. No.
Okay.
I'm not doing a shared universe.
I'm this saying one show is the show.
In doing shows that are like Xena or are like Hercules, you have to get this general sense that the characters they meet are plausible because the world that they live in is so bonkers. And I like that in this episode, the Java Tiger, McAllister is helping out a bumbling PI who they're looking for a tiger made out of gold called the Java Tiger, which is hilarious. And unfortunately, a Bond-like crime lord with a penchant for karate is also interested in the Java Tiger.
Yeah, there's a whole world of crime in this show.
Exactly. And like I love that because I'm seeing up here, I keep seeing the word Arab, which I am not that akin to. I don't like that.
We should really cut all the terrorism stuff.
Yeah, I don't like that very much. I think that we really have to set away from that, you know.
Yeah, there's terrorists, there's Arab terrorists.
Jack Bauer in 24 really put the pin in that one. So I think we're good.
In that war.
Yeah, but I love this idea of a Bond-like villain crime lord with a penchant for karate. That is the funniest sentence to just like a descriptor of a person. And I think with more villains like that, it would just set the stage for like the more people you run into, it's like, oh yeah, this doesn't take place in our world. This doesn't take place in Earth 414 or whatever. This is a different Earth where shit like this just kind of goes down. And
that's why I'm suggesting we pin some of this lore down. We pin some of this down a little bit and make I'm fine with the Java Tiger, but just like, all right, how do we fit this into this like web of criminals that we've been introduced over the show? Because they do, like with the Crown Jewels of England, it's like you guys kind of ping around a lot. You just sort of jump. Yeah,
that's one because it goes. Yeah, we go from England to Washington. In episode 10, it says base in Hawaii, so I'm assuming that they're in Hawaii.
In Hawaii, yeah. Yeah, that's what I mean by pare down. We really need to sort of like, let's rein it in. Like, they got a lot of good stuff here. Let's rein it in a little bit.
Obviously, you know, at some point we can go to... I like this notion, because the one thing that we know from this show, at the very least, is that they are... limited to driving around in this van,
which is funny
because they're bipping and bopping around, like they are moving all over the place. Like this, they go and for what, you know? I guess they're
trying to find the daughter.
They're trying to find the daughter from Las Vegas to New Orleans within like, you know, the next couple episodes.
And it's kind of, you know, one of the things, again, this show did get canceled. The writers, God bless them, they only had 13 episodes. In 2 different episodes, episode 6 and episode 11, maybe? I don't know. In 2 different episodes, they get tricked by a reporter or by a person who is like using Terry McAllister's name, and it's not really her name. And it's like, guys, you only had 13 episodes. You did that twice? Like they couldn't figure out. I mean, maybe you don't need 13 reasons, but like at least 12
reasons why,
13 reasons why. 13 reasons why you were looking for Terry McAllister. Like basically I think every episode they need a hot tip that's like, "Oh, I think Terry might be here." She also can fly a helicopter, I think, and she was a model at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
yeah.
So they need that's I think the premise of how they get to these places is they get tips. From people, but it's like you couldn't think of 12 tips. You even got one of them. You guys took a break from the search, so 11 reasons why you'd need to go to a city. Anyway,
yeah.
I mean, the show got canceled,
and obviously, like they're zipping away. Like it's 1984, so they must just be looking in phone books, like
right,
for different Terry McAllisters.
It's a small town kid and a man who's lived in Japan for 40 years. Like, how do you guys know anyone?
Yeah, I like this. I think one thing that I really want to see from this show when it's rebooted by us, I want to see, as I said, I want to see more of this fun world building. Because one thing that I really can't stand is, when there's a lot of shows that just are either too lazy or they just like, they want the notion of like fantastic things happening in our world. And, like that's not going to happen. Like, so for example, in like the Marvel movies, like that is like kind of happening in our world. And like, the regular people are regular people like us. And,
sure.
But I like this notion where this does not take place in our timeline. This takes place in one where there are dojos that have, there's one of the butterfly and one of the snake, and there's crime lords, and it doesn't play off of things that we're going through right now, but just almost like a more like fantastical, almost pre-Mad Max version of our universe where things are just kind of wonky.
Yeah. Hyper real.
I want a Quentin Tarantino hyper real type world. Hyper real. And
I think this is good. I don't even think we need to have our secret meeting about our secret comic book because this is it. This is it. It is both our fix and also our secret comic book.
Yeah, this is
for this show.
I mean, it's so
so good.
What was happening in 1984? This is some amazing stuff.
I can't believe it got canceled. Literally, even in the cancellation part of the article, they're like, "Yeah, people were loving this shit right now. Like, people were like, all ninja stuff. Everybody was action movies. They were way into it. It just got canceled." It's like,
here's what I'm thinking about that. I think that the reason it got canceled was because the budget for this show was way overblown. There is no chance that they kept a budget on this show.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there were a lot of explosions and car flips.
Several American like major cities. That's like shutting down traffic. That's flying the whole cast and crew out just for some rinky-dink little. I mean, I'm assuming.
I don't think that's how television works.
I'm at least assuming in episode 8, like with the crown jewels of England, they would have had to build a set of where the crown jewels are. They're not going to be filming on a back lot, and then some character's going to walk in and go, "I got me the jewels."
Yeah, it's fair. I don't know, but yeah. Again, there's something about this show that isn't good. Although it did seem to have whatever True Believer wrote this long article.
This person is a true believer.
Well, what I'm saying is that they made it very clear that it has a lot of DVD releases, so I can get my hands. There's a DVD and Blu-ray under license from
on Blu-ray even.
Blu-ray, for the entire series. Well, because it was chopped up into 7 different movies, so the 13 episodes were made into 7 movies, which were just 2 episodes put together.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is what was on Mystery Science Theater.
I like the Ninja Master, and I like that it goes to Ninja Master 2, Return of the Ninja Master, Ninja, The Shadows Kill, Ninja, Warrior of the Night, The Ninja Strikes, and the last one's just The Ninja Man.
Yeah, the thing is, it's not a good show, which is why we're here. There are obviously some bad decisions made along the way, which is why they called us in. But I probably will be buying the DVDs.
I will at the very least find it, and if we can find an action figure for that, we'll put it right next to the Mr. Smith goes to the jungle puzzle that you got.
The Mr. Smith sliding puzzle. Anyway, I think we're good, and I'll send this off to my friends at NBC.
Yeah. And actually, this is so wild. I have a dojo here. If you just want to take a walk inside,
yeah, totally. I've been meaning to get in shape, kind of.
Yeah. So we're just gonna
do some stretches.
Walk in this dojo, and if I'm explaining this to the audience, but all dojos have like mirrors that kind of run along the wall, so you can see yourself working out.
You're talking about ballet studios.
Yeah. And This one is a false door.
Whoa.
And it's gonna open up into a secret room for Zach's secret book club.
Oh shit! Secret book club, give it to me.
So this secret book club takes place in a dojo and there is no way that you would have known this, but this entire episode is basically the master. And I'm thinking that Frank Dux must have seen this show. I'm thinking that Frank Dux is actually the true believer that is editing this Wikipedia so much. Because
he would love our show.
I'm thinking that he took quite a lot of liberties into his own life, or either that. I mean, and this is probably true as well, but the master is probably based on Frank Dux.
Yeah. More likely than not.
Also,
I did find the DVDs for $69.99.
Hell yeah. So, when last we left our hero,
yes.
Honestly, I have no idea what was going on.
He was on a park bench with Bill Casey, who I've heard a lot about in between. He was a very real man.
Frank Dux is our secret agent, super good kisser, and he is paired up with Bill Casey. But I think I've found my way at the end of what is a 3-chapter prequel series where he takes a break from telling you what he is doing in his quest for whatever that one guy's name was, Fish or whatever. But he is now going back in time and telling us not what, but why is Frank Dux. And that is going to get us to chapter 7, which is training. And
now you've mentioned this before. It's very hard to tell while reading the book when anything is happening.
It is very hard to tell when things are happening because so many things are happening all at the same time. And the weird thing about Frank's writing is like it's almost, and I think this must be a stylistic choice. It's almost like contradictory. Like some of the details don't match up. Like sometimes he says he's doing one thing, but as it turns out at the same time he was doing something else, and it just kind of gets a little confusing to follow. But I think that's because in the end it's like he's still the secret man, so he's going to be keeping some secrets. And I think he's throwing us off with intentional lies to keep us guessing as to what is true. And, who really is Frank Dux, the secret man. But these ones all take place in his past. And this one is called Training. Previously, we heard from how his dad or whatever was also a super secret spy. And I think his granddad was a super secret spy.
And, his granddad, who is too old to have even been in the OSS.
Yeah. But we have yet to find out, because we know one thing about Frank Dux at the very least, and that is that he is a super good fighter. I mean, obviously, he won that fighting tournament. So there has to be at least some way that he became such an amazing fighter, and he's going to answer all those questions for us in the chapter of Training. So it opens up, and we find our hero just very distraught because he has lost a fighting tournament. And he's a boy, so this is not the fighting tournament. It's just a fighting tournament, and he goes back to the place where you change after a fighting tournament, I guess. And he's very distraught. He's very upset, and he is like, "I'm never going to fight ever again. This is the last fight I'll ever have."
Yeah.
When a voice of an old man asked him, "When your opponent is swifter, stronger, and more experienced than you, what must you do?"
Why do we fall down, Mr. Wayne?
No hello, no, no. Hi, I'm a mysterious old man, and I think that we're in a changing room. But you're gonna want to hear the shit I'm about to say.
Okay.
And Frank answers, "Run like hell." "Perhaps," he replied, "but the outcome would be nonetheless inevitable. I would say one should learn to die well. What do you want?" "Merely to say that I think you have the potential to die very well."
Sorry, where is he? Is he in the YMCA? He's just like in a gym?
He's at a fighting tournament, so I imagine there's people around, hopefully. But this man just comes up to him, and without introducing himself, he says that Frank,
he threatens to murder him.
It is canonical at this point in the book that he is a child, that he is like probably 12 years old. An old man says to him that he has the potential to die well, which is not something that you want to hear in the changing room of a YMCA or in life in general. I don't want to hear it at my job. You definitely don't want to hear it at your job. That'd be very confusing.
Well, I work in my home. If an old man came behind me and said, "You will die well," it's like, probably right now, huh? Okay, so he's at a fighting tournament, but he's at like a YMCA because he's he's a kid.
Yeah, he goes to a changing room, and so, but he is just lost. So he's
you gotta run those lines by me again. What did this old man say to him?
"When your opponent is swifter, stronger, and more experienced than you, what must you do?"
"Run like hell."
"Run like hell," I snarled sarcastically.
Fuck,
"Perhaps, but the outcome would nonetheless be inevitable. I would say one should learn to die well." "What do you want?" I demanded. "Merely to say that I think you have the potential to die very well."
It's a fighting tournament.
Yes.
It's not. Oh my god. I keep wanting to call him Ra's al Ghul, which is probably what I'm going to call him the rest of the show. But like Ra's al Ghul is being insane right now at this JV Taekwondo tournament. Because it's also their children. So it's like fighting tournament is more like karate tournament. Like it's not.
Yes. And I'm going to explain what this old man looks like.
They're not doing UFC.
My reddened eyes took in the deep, heavy scar on his cheek.
Oh my God,
as if the flesh had not been cut, but gouged out. His left pinky was missing. His appearance demanded attention, and something in his manner was intensely compelling.
Yakuza. He's missing his pinky.
You bet your sweet ass.
Yakuza.
So, then the man says, "Dying well is our ultimate accomplishment. I meant what I said as a compliment. You did not give up. You made your opponent breathe very hard for victory." Once again, not something you want to hear.
Not a thing that I want to hear. A 12-year-old he needs to go to prison immediately. Immediately go to prison.
Just for saying that. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, we have just entered into the mudroom of this house. We are not even. Yeah, we are. It is going to get much wilder. I've just introduced this guy the way that Frank thought it would be befitting to introduce him. Just be
this made up man.
Yeah, man. I was at a fighting tournament. This dude walked in and was like, "Hey, you ready to die?"
Okay,
I'm gonna good at it.
I'm gonna put my chips down already. Number one. Oh my God, this is the master. Okay, number one.
Okay, yeah.
Obviously, he's Yakuza because he's missing his pinky. I got that one.
Mm-hmm.
He is going to train Frank Dux. And then, number 2, betray Frank Dux, and Frank Dux is going to have to kill him.
That actually is a pretty good guess, but okay. I mean, I'm going to get a little farther, and then at the end we can do some coming up on the Secret Man. So their meeting goes such that this old man says that he wants to train Frank Dux because he's such obviously you can tell he's like such a cool looking guy. Yeah. And then Frank asks for how much, and then he says like for free because you're such a great pupil that I need you to be trained for free. Just things that if you hear this in your life, like all your alarm bells should be going off, not like this dude's probably going to teach me how to be a ninja, huh? Yeah. Which is exactly what he does. he starts training Frank in the art of being a ninja. And this man's name is Tanaka-sama, which you might as well start calling him a master because he is the master.
Yeah.
So...
Except he's not John McAllister. He is Japanese, I assume.
Yeah, and hopefully. I mean, he's...
if he's also white...
They do describe him as... continuously, they describe him as an Oriental man, which I'm not for.
Not great. We don't need to say that on our show.
Exactly. Let's just bleep that the shit out. Anyway.
For a made-up man, like, he's not real. Obviously, he's a completely fictional character. And I am getting more and more surprised that the movie Bloodsport exists. Like Frank Dux, who I love and can come on the show whenever he wants, is such an obvious liar that, like, how did this happen? I love it. I'm glad it did. I'm going to probably watch Bloodsport this weekend. Like, it sounds rad, but, like... Anyway... Cool, love it. The master, whose name I already forgot. So yeah,
and there's just a lot of really great things that happens. Like, he starts training him. It occupies his entire life. He carries a ball of melted wax to squeeze in order to develop his forearms and finger strength, whatever that means.
A ball of melted wax is liquid.
Yeah, you're right.
Is it a ball of wax or is it melted wax?
It says here that it is a ball of melted wax.
Yeah, because it fully didn't happen, so I guess it doesn't matter.
That he is carrying around a melted candle and just like squeezing hot wax onto his hands.
A bucket of constantly heated liquid wax.
And
stopped.
I will say this: there is a section where he begins gardening for the old man and. Doing activities that also double as training,
like Karate Kid,
like a Karate Kid sort of ripoff. There is like directly things pulled from him, like learning how to like rake and like hoe and like tend to the like the garden is the same way as like how to like move in a fight. And it's
this shouldn't be a surprise because he did already do Enter the Dragon. So
exactly. So it's like you might as well just like double down and then say
this is
like
his Karate Kid
like my childhood was also the Karate Kid. But
he did
how
his
like
James
that
Bond.
Guy grew up and didn't become a super secret agent. Like I'm a cooler version of whatever that kid's name was. And
Daniel. So I don't know his last name.
I want to just everything I'm about to tell you, and I'll let you know when it's over. Everything I'm about to tell you happens in the time span of everything happens in the time span of just one page 53 to be exact.
You're only 53 pages into this book?
Only 53 pages.
You're in chapter 7.
You are correct.
What? Okay, yes. That's the craziest thing you've said so far. How long is this book?
This book is, including pictures, 313 pages.
Oh my god!
So as I go on, he'll get into more adventures and he'll be able to be more like a serial. But I think he is still he's still leading us into the why of Frank Dux.
Okay,
and,
I love it.
Yeah, so as we continue, I think I'll be talking more about his adventures and his general things he says happens. But I think this chapter spoke to me in such a big way. Specifically, this page spoke to me in a huge way. Because I kept writing down notes. I like take detailed notes of what I'm reading in this book for this. And I kept looking because I kept having to write what page number was on. And I kept writing page 53. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's awesome. I'm going to eat some pasta carbonara that my wife gave to me. So go ahead.
This page starts with him talking about how he is suffering from asthma attacks because he's training so hard. And it's this really weird moment where it was the only time in this book so far I've seen him admit he's self-conscious about something in him physically. And
so it's the only true part of the book.
I was kind of taken aback by it. I was like, oh, that's really interesting because like you usually are just like, I'm the strongest boy. I'm the fastest person alive.
Sure.
And then he's
great
like
kissing.
Yeah, and then he talks about how his sensei, the master, told him that Che Guevara, the doctor turned revolutionary, suffered profoundly from asthma, But then through the science art of Aikido, he began to develop his asthma into something he could use to defend himself. It was like,
what?
yes.
What?
So
defend him against the cancer that the CIA gave him.
Defend himself from an asthma attack. And so he has this moment where he is like, I have asthma, and that's like something that I'm struggling with. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. The very next thing he says is, from that moment, I began to formulate my own personal guidelines for developing techniques that possessed efficiency and velocity, each strike designed either to immobilize or kill an opponent quickly. I always assume my hypothetical opponents to be armed, which that's great.
It's probably a good call, I guess. Ninjas.
He
or whatever your goal is.
He then continues down on to say that he creates from his notes. He's taking off of this own form of like ninjutsu that he is taking from his master. He develops his own form of ninjutsu, which earns him the rank of 10th degree black belt by the age of 35. Becoming the youngest martial artist in history to achieve such a recognition.
Okay, now see, that seems weird to me. I don't know anything about martial arts. I was going to say, I feel like at 35, you've probably peaked. Like, that seems like kind of old to be doing peak performance in exercise.
I'm thinking that, because I know there are 10 degrees of black belt, and I'm thinking that it is less about skill and more about like wisdom. You know what I mean? Like it is Avatar, The Legend of Korra. It's like you can be the best fighter in the world, but it doesn't matter if you're not wise. Or it like you can be the strongest big boy good kisser, but that if anything that would inhibit you from becoming like
but he did both.
Like the very essence of you talking about how friggin' sick you are at doing something, I think negates your ability to get a 10th degree black belt.
Obviously not, because
I guess they made an exception. I guess they were like, holy shit.
Well, I guess that makes sense, because I just feel like, I mean, I know any 10th degree black belt, even in their 80s, could, is probably pretty good at fighting. But like, it just seems weird to be like, this is the highest rank. People have done it, but they haven't done it till after they were 35. It's like, but I don't know. I'm talking out of my ass. That might totally be a thing.
Yeah. We need to very quickly move on because there is so much more happening.
Yeah.
Also, the page 53 ends with him saying, by my 21st birthday, in public demonstrations, I'd split a lit candle wick the size of a fly, the candle held tightly in my assistant's hand. I was not the first to perfect this technique, but I was the first to turn my back on the candle and then lunge from 10 feet away to extinguish the flame before a coin dropped on the floor.
What the fuck are you talking about?
That
split it with
happens,
what?
I'm not lying, out of nowhere.
This guy.
Like, he's talking about how he becomes a master at the age of 35, and then he is just like, oh, and by the way, like when I was 21, I could do this super sick trick where I would be 10 feet away from a candle and lunge at it, and then like kick it. I don't know, like before
with his back turned, so he's spinning and lunging.
Yeah.
Right. Keep that in mind. His back is turned, and then he jumps 10 feet backwards and then does something to a candle wick. I don't really understand what splitting the wick means. Like with a sword, with your hand. I don't know. But he does it faster than you could drop a coin on the ground.
Yeah.
Which I mean, is Frank, so obviously I believe him.
Yeah, obviously. But I have no.
That's pretty wild.
It's funny because, like,
I love Frank Dux.
When you're writing something, it's like you use descriptive language, like it's like I'm there. But this, I'm just like, I don't know what you are describing.
Give me a diagram. What is splitting a wick?
I need some pictures. Like, I have no understanding of what it is you are doing in this moment.
Like, I love it. I love all of this, and this is great. But it is like getting more and more challenging to be like to believe that he thought anyone would believe this. Like, it rules. I love this book. This is great. But
like that's why, like,
what?
So
dude? Like,
so I gotta keep going. So he continues training, but then he begins to train under this other teaching. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I'm making it a personal point to read everything the previous owner of this book has highlighted.
Yeah,
because someone else highlighted this, and I have to read everything they highlighted. And the thing they chose to highlight was, I began studying the 4 ways of the corpse.
What?
Benevolence, courage, valor, and wisdom. And he goes on to explain it, but who cares? Like, it's just like wisdom, to be wise in the face of whatever, benevolence and whatever. But it's called the 4 ways of the corpse. And the previous owner was like, hell yeah. So continuing on, the most important revelation from this is his master, the master, turns out, guess what? To be a super secret spy.
Of course he does.
He turns out to be a super secret spy who helps steal some technology from the Russians.
Yeah.
And this technology was used to later thwart Saddam Hussein or someone. Like, it had something to do with the Iran-Contra thing, where it's like him and a group of other Yakuza agents, which is what the book says. It says Yakuza agents.
Yeah, Yakuza.
I'm thinking that Frank Dux just looked into what a Yakuza was and mistook them for like
secret agents. Yeah,
a branch of the Japanese secret agents. So anyway, that's a big reveal, but it is totally glossed over. Like, it reveals this, and I was like, that is hilarious and obvious at this point that that's kind of what this book is getting into. Sure. But it goes back into his own training, where he starts talking about how in his training, he starts... hold on, I gotta find the exact... Here we go. He had taught me to never depend solely on any one of the 6 senses, the 6th sense being instinct. These exercises we had done, such as performing ordinary tasks blindfolded, enabled me to detect the presence of another person through body heat, vibrations in the floor and walls, disturbances of air currents, and sharpened hearing. One's powers of observations enabled a warrior to detect his opponent's weakness and strengths, and even alerted one of his movements, all while being blindfolded.
Oh my God.
So that is the last page. Like, that is like the last thing he says in his training. And so he's just like, my master was also a secret agent. And also, one quick thing, I started blindfolding myself, and I'm like Batman.
Yeah. I'm Daredevil.
I'm Daredevil. And I can.
Okay.
I can, and I love it is
everything about this man.
Chef's kiss to say disturbances in air currents. You mean when someone walks past you and you can
air?
Like, you can very easily sense them because a body is moving around? Like, disturbing air currents? Like, just say there's something moving around.
I want to take a quick break and read a section from a different book. This would be, let me just in this gripping, adventure-filled novel, one man reluctantly takes charge of an underground war that has been raging across international borders between feudal factions for over 300 years. His objectives are to follow his teacher's path to enlightenment by ending petty struggles and change the world. However, he must pit himself against old allies and various secret societies in pursuit of a title that he never asked for, at the peril of his own family. His current army is made up of men and women who have been trained in the secret knowledge from the warrior and mystical clans of old, including Sanford Two Bulls and Ramona Redwolf. This is, of course, the premise of Shindoshi, the way of the 4 ways of the corpse, which is the only result when you type in the 4 ways of the corpse, is this fictional book. That sounds very similar to what Frank Dux was describing.
Love Frank Dux. He says the author of this way of thinking is Koga Yamabushi.
Or Gordon
Ramsay.
Rikishu. I don't know when this book was written. So maybe when was The Secret Man written?
I think 1993.
Oh, this was written in 2010. So,
oh my god!
Egg on my face. I guess he didn't get it from this book, but I don't know what the 4 ways of the corpse
I'll tell you, I have them right here. They are benevolence, courage, valor, and wisdom. So.
All right, so maybe it's a real thing, but I couldn't find it.
So this chapter ends with our good friend Frank Dux and his master kind of having a falling out because he is sensing that he's sixth sensing his master is having like he looks down on him, and he thinks the other students are better than him, even though Frank is like the biggest kick-ass boy in the world who can blindfold himself and like you fight everyone. And this all culminates in him having to fight one of the master's nephews. Ooh. And this is a thing that happens in the book, and I had to read it several times to get what was going on. Okay. So they go into this fighting thing, and he's going to fight one of his nephews. And in the fight, you can bring your own weapon. You can bring any weapon you choose. And
he does an Agni Kai against the nephew.
Yes. So the nephew brings a sword.
Good call.
Trying to kill someone on American soil, really trying to really get yourself into jail. And
sure. Frank brings a gun. Frank wins.
I, on the other hand, appeared the fool, partly out of anger and frustration. I showed up with a long metal grill, an electric cord, a thin green blanket, and a pail of water.
All right, sorry. You know that you're going to have to slow down for me. Okay. Obviously, so you're allowed to bring more than one thing.
I guess so.
A
long metal grill,
now,
electric cord, a thin green blanket, and a pail of water.
Am I to believe...
What do we think that Frank is going to do?
I would like to. I'd like to do this.
In a sword fight, a fight where a person has a sword. What do we think Frank is going to do with a grill, a cord, a thin green blanket, which is a weird detail, and a pail of water?
Okay, can I do this?
Sure.
Right, one.
I think you're gonna get it.
Well, I don't know. So when you say grilled, do you mean like a grill for cooking?
I think a grill for cooking,
or
a large grill for cooking.
Okay, because the other option would be like a grate, but I guess you would say grate. Okay, so the two options that make sense to me are set him on fire, right? Like set the blanket on fire on the grill and then throw it on him, or electrocute him because you've got an electrical cord and a pail of water.
Mm-hmm.
But that seems weird, and not that he cares about the laws of physics, but I don't think that's how it works. And what would you do with the other shit? If it was like a grill, like a griddle, you could like set that on the ground, and with the water and the electrical cord, like electrify it, and he'll step on it. That seems kind of weird. And what do you do with the blanket? I mean, maybe if he's getting all electrocuted, he's got the blanket on, it bursts into flames. I'm not saying that's how it works.
I think.
Am I close?
You are extremely close.
That sucks. That I'm close.
First, I place the blanket on the floor between us, and then position the long grill on top. I attached the electric cord. I attached the electric cord to the grill and plugged it into the wall socket. Holding the pail of water ready, I asked him if he cared to rethink his decision to fight me. What is the meaning of this? It means he's getting a real charge out of this fight, remarked another nephew. I looked at the old man. The greatest warrior is one who wins without battle.
Well, you got to bring 4 things.
Yeah, you got to bring 4 things, and
it's
also
way different.
You fucking cheated.
Way cheated.
Like you it is
fight him like a man.
It is such a funny thing to MacGyver your way into creating.
There's so many better ways to electrocute somebody.
Yeah,
bring a taser.
Impossible set of circumstances, and it's just like, I won it without having to do battle. It's like, no, you didn't.
Wait a minute. So the guy sees this, figures out, I'm going to step on the blanket and get electrocuted, and then is just like, never mind, and doesn't fight him?
It seems to be that way.
He should have brought a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
A gun would do the same thing.
It would have the exact same effect if he brought a gun and was like, the greatest warrior wins without having to fight at all. And it's like,
because if you fight me, I'm going to shoot you with this gun.
I'm going to shoot you with this gun. And it's like, yeah, he brought 4 things.
You can't be right.
I'm assuming, you can only have a grill that's so big.
That, and it's like it has to be just made up by you.
He's like, are you gonna fight me now? And he's just like starts stepping around the grill and goes, whoa, 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 like. and he's like, walks slowly around the grill, and he's like, the greatest warrior of all wins without fighting.
I just imagine him having to walk in with all this shit. And it's just like, oh, good, because there'd be so much stuff in your hands. He's like got it wrapped around and a blanket. He's got a pail of water and then like a grill. And it's like, oh, hey guys, I'm ready for the fight.
It's so funny because it's written in this way that makes him seem like the audience would be like, clever Frank.
Right, but like, it's not clever at all. For what you need to do, it's like absolutely not clever.
You created. You
brought them is the thing.
You didn't use the things that were already there.
Like, how do you found them? Right.
You would have been clever had you like used your surroundings and created this sort of thing where it was like, you outsmarted me, Frank. It's like,
I need to intimidate him.
Created a very weird set of circumstances that would only result in me not stepping on this grill. Like, you didn't even trick me to stepping on this grill because you like set this whole thing up and it's just like, want to fight me now, bitch? And it's just like, yes, I still do, because one, you didn't bring a weapon. This is it. This is your whole this is your whole deal right here. So I've already figured you out.
God,
like, I've already got you.
Yeah, it's so like, even if you
I'm just gonna step around you and stab you with the sword.
And I'm also like a martial arts master. Like, again, if Frank can jump 10 feet from standing backward, like, surely this dude can jump over a grill. But yeah, like, it's, even if you didn't put together what was happening, if he, like, again, shuffles in with all of his stuff and, like, sets it all on the ground and, like, sets up his little thing and is holding his water, and you didn't even, like, understand what was going on, you would still be like, well, I don't know what this is. I still don't I still don't understand how the blanket is related, but like, I'm just not going to step on any of that. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm not just going to walk over here.
If you put the cord on the grill, like, it doesn't electrocute it. Like, it doesn't.
I think it's plugged in. Didn't you say it was plugged in?
He said he plugged it in, but it's like, if I grab an extension cord and I fling the other end of the extension cord onto like a metal grill, it doesn't therefore make it electric.
Well, I was assuming he plugged it into the grill like it was an electric stovetop, but
maybe.
But even then, I guess because it's metal. But even then, it's like, you couldn't put water on a grill. Like, it's like, it would just sort of like get hot.
Yeah, and it's like, it just like, it kind of puts out.
Well, what it would do is it would short it out, and then like maybe trip a breaker or like surge protect. It's not important.
But here's the thing.
Okay, that shit rules.
Frank won this battle in the end because he didn't have to fight at all.
So the guy gave up.
Presumably because the guy was so confused. And
so it doesn't ever explain.
And just being like, I'm not going to fight you, man. Like, you clearly have got something going on. Like,
just so we're clear.
Like, this isn't about the fight anymore. Like, you got something happening.
Just so we're clear. But he shuffles all this shit in here. Then it sets it all down. And number one, does not explain how the plan actually works. And number two, does not explain that the person conceded. It's just all implied.
Yes. So
get this book a Pulitzer Prize.
So I'll tell you how it ends. The master is but it's written in such a way of like, and then everyone clapped, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, of course.
So then his master tells everyone to go, and he dismisses everyone else from the room, and then he started yelling at Frank Dux, culminating in him saying, "You are not Japanese."
Well, got him there.
And then the next week came, and I did not know what to do. And all week I had had anger and shame. What difference did it make that I was not born Japanese? Could I help it? And that's the end of the chapter, baby.
He got reverse racismed.
And I'm assuming that's kind of like, that's the end.
I assume that's another true part of the story where like he's like a Japan guy, you know, like he's a white dude who's way into Japan and like kept talking about his kimono and his katana. And people were like, hey, don't say it like that. You're not Japanese. And like he just got real butthurt about it and then turned that one real...
he wrote this entire chapter as like one big fuck you to this
like
guy.
That actually happened to him where he was just being like kind of offensive. And then he was all like...
he recontextualized it in his own brain to make it to where he was like...
It was reverse racism.
They just don't get me because I'm so heroic.
Yeah, exactly. He kept calling a Japanese guy a new sensei, and they were just like, "This sucks. You suck. Don't do this. You're not Japanese, and also I'm not your sensei." And,
this is a strip mall. Calm down.
Yeah, even if this is a Cheddar's, please leave. Even if you were Japanese, this would be incredibly weird.
Yes.
And then he actually just wrote it into the book. As
the this master. Thing where his master didn't get his totally sick and cool and very good idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the end of his training, and what's going to happen in the future with Frank Dux? Who knows? But this is the end of us going back into his past, and the next chapter, which I will give you a little teaser of, is called The KGB in Hollywood.
Yes.
And it's exactly what it sounds like.
That's awesome. I honestly cannot wait. This is my absolute favorite segment. I love Frank Dux. It gets crazier every chapter, and I can't believe it.
Can't wait. Well, anyway, that's our show. Thank you all so much for coming and listening to Get Better. If you guys would like to reach us, you can find us on Instagram at Get Better Podcast. That's at get_better_podcast. You can also reach us at meetthefockers2, fockedup@gmail.com. And that's all we have. So see you guys next week.
All right, I'm going to go buy these the Master DVDs for $36.
All right.
See you bye forever. Okay, so it's very late at night. We're not done. We're coming back for just a second because me and Zach kept talking after the call ended, and there's one thing that we kept talking about Frank Dux, obviously, and the blanket thing, and one thing I just have to say that has just occurred to me. So we were talking about what parts of the story is true, right? And Zach was saying that because the thing about the blanket is so bitter that it's probably true. And something occurred to me. Zach, he doesn't say how the fight ended. He said the way to win is not to fight at all. What was tripping me up is like, this cannot be true. Because if someone walked into a dojo with all this shit under their arms and was like, I'm going to electrocute this guy to death, they wouldn't let him fight.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that this story is true? And then he was like, okay, I'm ready. And they're like, fucking no. And they didn't let him fight, which is why he doesn't mention how it ends. He just says, I won because I didn't have to fight at all. Because they immediately went, no, you fucking bozo. But he cut all that shit out. He cut all the part out where they were like, no, you can't. And that's
as I was saying to Sam, that's the reason why I think of all the things in this, I think this is true. Because the way it is written is such that like it has, and I like it's through a lot of tone that I didn't get into when I was reading it, but like there is such a tone of like venom and hatred and like this like in parentheses sort of vibe where he's like, and no one liked my cool idea. Well, I'll show them. Right. I'll put it in a book because I'm a movie star now. And then we'll see. They're going to talk about how cool my idea was, and that'll show them.
I think he might have really done it only because it is super weird in a fit because it's a fiction.
Yeah, and it's like
weird
and
to
like
not mention that you.
It's
won.
Not cool at all. It's not cool. It's not like it's not the thing where he said he put bombs in his boots. It's not.
There's no cool way to bring all this stuff in. It's not cool.
It's not clever, and it's just
at all.
And yeah, you're right. And he didn't say how he won. He just talked about.
And then he
talked about how he dropped a real cool guy line, which he definitely didn't do at the time.
For sure.
And then his master was like, "You're not Japanese," and those two events have got to be. Those two events are months apart. That was not the same day,
unrelated to one another, but those happened. So yeah, you're not Japanese, which is such a weird thing to mention.
Exactly.
Because I assume throughout the chapter he isn't like saying he's Japanese. It's just like, I'm training you in my dojo, and then it's like, you're not Japanese. But to be fair, fair, he did like the least traditional fighting method ever. But you're right in that there's no cool way to bring those 4 things into a dojo because a griddle would be so heavy and a bucket of water. Like you can't. So it's so lame that I think it might have actually been true that he did that and that he just got immediately disqualified.
I am thinking that like within that chapter there's obviously lies, but I think there like the thing about this book is I think there is enough truth in it to where he is seeking validation for something, and that just himself. Felt like the way he was writing about it just felt like a memory. Just felt like him. Like if I could see the way he was writing it, I would just see like the pin marks get like darker and more like and fucking like and I brought in all this stuff.
It was such a cool idea.
And he didn't even fight me.
Because I spilled all that
water. And yeah, like, and there's no chance that it would actually become electric. There's no way. There's no.
And also, it's like, sorry, you're gonna electrocute him to death.
Yeah, it's just
no, you're not allowed to electrocute him to death, you idiot.
And like when he says he brought in a sword, like I just imagine it wasn't a real sword. It was like one of those training swords, like a wooden one. And he's just like,
or there's no and he's sword. Just like, what the they were fighting for green belts.
What the fuck are you doing? And he's just, and because like just the previous week, they had done the lesson about outsmarting your enemy, and he was like, right. I'll impress my master. Like, yeah. I'll impress him. I'll impress everybody with my super cool idea. And then my master and no one else liked it, and I'm not Japanese. That's what he said.
You're not Japanese. That's so funny. Because it sounds like in the context of the book, it has nothing to do with what he was saying. So it's definitely an unrelated story from a different person that he's mad at for something that I'm sure Frank Dux was in the wrong about. Like, I'm 100% sure he was wrong.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Okay, I have to. All right, now the show. All right.
Yeah, see you bye forever.